So that means please go.
I was actually given a heads up that we were ready to start the game.
Because it's deer hunting season.
It's deer. It is actually deer hunting season. Oh boy. A lot of fabulous skins on the Rift today and some very epic music to set us up for our third game of the day.
I wonder what's happened to our friendly duck overlord of void-like nature.
Where is Sothoch these days? How is he doing? Is he safe? Is he all right?
Don't you start quoting
He seems in our over-memeing. We may have killed him.
So
he's okay. He's just quieter than usual.
Sothoch. Just
maybe he's no longer possessed. Maybe that's
I don't know. He just went into that brush.
I don't know.
I actually think he was trying to join the Dusty level 1 there.
That would be very unfair.
A dangerous figure to be facing at level 1, I hear.
It's like, do you remember when Mordekaiser his current rework was able to sort of like kill dragon, take the soul of whatever of the dragon or whatever he killed as a pet, and then walk around with it? So he just sort of like, yep, well, I've killed dragon, and now I have it as my attack dog.
How that broke the game.
Multiple ways. There was somebody on Reddit who kept a list of Mordekaiser bugs, and I believe it was like several hundred long.
Yeah, no, I think it got to 21 pages.
Wow.
Ridiculous how many interactions that had. I believe that only got topped by Viego.
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh my god, that champion. Both of us have some game design background, and I've done my fair bit of coding in the past too. And I just look at that, and it's one of that points where you look at the console, and there are just too many errors. That you look at something, you take out a bug, it goes from like 37 to 50, and you're like, let's close the console down for today.
Indeed. Well, when you can take over every single champion, suddenly there's a lot of interactions to work with. But speaking of interactions to work with, we've got to figure out where the interactions are going to be in this early game.
We were talking about the Viego, blah, blah, blah. Very big champion in spring and had shown some presence towards summer. Very similar to kind of in the position to Xin Zhao and how we now see on the Rift. Really interested seeing what the pathing of Linkus is going to be. Looks like he's heading towards that level 3. Wondering what exactly his idea is. It seems like a pretty topside focus from Dusty. As much as Volleyball Lucian Nami kind of demands some kind of saving presence on the bot side, otherwise they can potentially cause you some real problems in the bot side. When you have Darius and you've got a Xin Zhao Ahri, top side is the 3v3, it looks pretty strong. Do you think, though, get towards that Herald and Ornn gets a little bit problematic? Just depends whether Vanir find themselves in a good enough position to play around something like that. Of course, Corki's not going to be at a similar point of power, sadly, for them to capitalize on to give you that same presence around the top side of the map.
And then honestly, for Vanir, on the other side, they've got Merbs and Zaremba on this Lucian Nami option into the Zeri and the Renata, who will scale to be very deadly as the game goes on, but certainly the early pressure should be going the way of Vanir, but obviously with that focus towards the bot side, you've got an early game topside play from Dusty.
Could have known.
Dreampool about to get pulled by an apprehend one feels. He tries to flash the charm and does so. Going to try and place one out best he can, but I just don't think he's got too far to go. Does get a decent knock-up, but Kerberos with the apprehend. They can't quite secure the kill. Backlund about to die to the tower, and that'll make it a 1-for-1.
Oh, that's
superb stuff.
Oh, I mean, he's still losing the wave under tower, but I mean,
he's got TP. He'll be
Dusty
okay.
Don't end up CC chaining. Of course, you fire that charm out first, gets flashed away from. Normally, you think Dreampool is going to sit by the tower and look for a multi-man searing charge. That tends to be the outplay that Ornn goes for. Get the big knock-up under tower, but I mean, he remembers to pop his pots, and Dreampool, while he goes down, makes Dusty pay a lot more for that trade than they realistically should have done.
It's 1-for-1, plus flash on the enemy jungler, flash TP on Backlund's Ahri, and the Ghost on Kerberos. That is huge, and for Backlund as well, who has been, honestly, one of our star mid laners this league.
Very much
this split in particular, rather, as I rephrase that to be a little bit more grammatically correct. That is not what you want to see, First Blood notwithstanding.
And what that also means now is that you don't have Flash on your Ahri to make a play onto the Corki at some point. Now with that, Corki, who is kind of just snoozing for a little bit up until something else comes in, means that Corki gets a bit of a free ride into more relevance to that first package, to where he wants to be in this game. It's going to be top lane 2v2 again.
3v2.
Really using that Xin Zhao.
Oh, he's got in! It's going to be the 3v2. Kerberos getting a lot of damage down, but in goes Linkus with the audacious charge. But the turnaround damage makes it at least a 1-for-1 against Dreampool. Chugging those potions and stays alive again. Kerb can't go and fight. He's waiting for a decimating strike and does manage to get one. Flash for the stun, though, and Backlund goes down. Quails gets another, and Vanir are on the board. Is it another upset?
Oh, and what an important win this would be for Vanir, of course. It's too early to start counting eggs before they've hatched, but Vanir They were up against a draft that wanted to get stuff done early through topside, and 2 plays in a row, they have answered with absolute fire. Creox in the right place at the right time for this one. Dreampole had to do all of his stunts the last time, but you're looking at this play onto the Ornn, who gets so much regen out of just popping his pots early, turns around a load of these plays, and the solo laners have put so much, invested so much into this top side and really not gotten that much to show for it. Vanir, so happy with how this is going.
I mean, Creox should be renamed to Orpheus at this point, because a 3-man gank with a man named Kerberos on the top side, still escaped from hell and managed to come up with a kill to the good. That's impressive stuff for Vanir, who make this early game a very tricky one for Dusty.
Normally we'd be going on to like more Norse mythology. Guess we're going to more Hellenic roots for this one. Maybe get Medic on the cast next one. Bring in the Hades references.
Great game.
In case he's not told you yet, world champion on some speedrunning records back in the day for that one. Back in the day, it was only like a year or two old.
Within the world of speedrunning, that is quite a large amount of time, though, as those records do change pretty regularly as people figure out new and impressive ways to break the old records.
Just like Dusty were speed running it down top lane.
Absolutely, it feels like. And now Vanir with an early game lead with this comp that, particularly with the Corki and the Ornn, is supposed to scale a little bit later. Yes, you've got this Lucian Nami, but the pressure hasn't been there early on. And they're going to take the additional opportunity now with that pressure towards the bot side to claim first. Drake at the game, and Linkas is back for a 3rd attempt.
And Dusty have to play around topside. Dreampole has the ult, but Kerberos, this is looking dangerous, Dreampole.
I don't know about this. Looking for the knock-up. Misses it, though. But look at Kerberos taken very damn low. But a Noxian Guillotine executes the Forge God.
And I think Vanir, you know, they did a great job of doing what they could for the top side early on into the game, but there is always going to be a point where that Ornn is left out to dry. Dreampole not quite with the wave in the right place. What this does mean, though, again, is because of the amount of resources put topside, the rest of the map starts to flourish for Vanir. You have suddenly Creox, who's managing to set up bot lane for success. Now, bot lane hasn't managed to do that much in terms of a 2v2 just yet. I'm actually more interested in seeing whether Vanir, because of the amount of pressure they managed to soak, the amount of resources they managed to buy from that top side, whether they can actually get themselves a Herald. You know, we were saying about Corki not always being the best champion taking first Herald, because it's before that first package timing, it's before you become an unmitigatable, undeniable.
There we go. It's like,
what's the word I could use for this? I've gone too far into the dictionary for this one, but it's very hard to stop Corki like
yes, that's quite a long way in. Either way,
it's halfway through.
Yes.
It's a lot of language, a lot of letters in the English.
There's a lot of words as you get halfway through. How many pages? How many pages in the dictionary? That's a dangerous question to ask either way.
Which version?
Quite a lot of them, I think, is probably a fairly good answer, and we'll leave it at that. Linkas at level 6 with the stolen blue buff around him. About to face check Creox, and I'm not sure how much he wants this. Ericsson starting to wander on over, gets a knock-up, but I just don't think Linkas is particularly happy about that. Good sidestep means he avoids a big one to the face. Herald started up by Vanir, as you suggested they might be, but Dusty are here to contest.
Dreampole doesn't have ult. That's a huge tool for Dusty, not available. I do think Vanir might actually be overcommitting to this one. Feels like Linkas has a lot of options to front line.
Stormbringer, though, of course, is dashed up by a charm, and Foxy gets that one. What can they get done as Backlund throws down the Spirit Rush? One dead already. The Ultra Shock laser goes wide, but Backlund still hunting for another charm, potentially. Herald has to be seen to Dusty, and yes, Vanir go a little too deep.
Yeah, again, maybe just a bit emboldened by what had happened around top lane before, but when you have that Volibear going in to be the sole front line, because Ornn's not really in position, doesn't have the ult, not in the thick of things, you are going to lose that front line battle. Charm lands, Dusty cut down the first target. Ericsson and crew on the top side had done such a good job of, again, playing around the top side early, but it does feel like the champions they have on the Rift just not cut out for that Herald, and they kind of missed the memo on that one.
Well, we've got a Corki on the Rift. Look at that booty. It's fluffy and glorious, as are, in fact, our NLC pets at home. Look at that. What a wonderful bow tie.
You know, I look forward to seeing Parmesano's tweets.
They are wonderful.
We maybe
don't have as much time to relish in the cat as we would like. As there's a gank happening in the top side, Kerberos taken pretty low, but doesn't fall down. Now he can start healing back up. Massive chunk, the turnaround, and the fear begins to rise as Kerb executes one, and he's looking like he's got a few more on the chopping block. But they'll get out of this one, and suddenly those plays that Vanir were turning around early are all going Kerb's way now.
Now, the worry I have about what's happening with Vanir is that they are continuing to play around this top side, and They don't have the waves in the right place. Feels like Dreampool, last couple of times we've gone up towards top lane, Dreampool's had to try and have some help crashing in a wave, has to try and disengage. It's just not happened. I'd actually much rather Vanir kind of leave Dreampool out to dry a little bit and just try and play around bot lane maybe just for once. And it feels like this Lucian Nami hasn't actually managed to be the cross-map, huge pressure point on bot side that we could play around.
And honestly, speaking of that, we wanted to kind of highlight these two players because they've been pretty pivotal to both teams' success, and the fact they're not being played around, particularly considering the draft here for Vanir, is a little problematic.
Yeah, and I do kind of feel like it's a little bit of mind control from the Darius pick, where you see the Darius and you go, I need to do something about that. And I agree that is very much something you needed to do, and they did it early on. I feel like after a point, though, you have to be very aware that it is going to be a losing scenario on top side until you have a certain amount of items onto someone like Corki that can help you out, because Volibear, Ornn don't have enough damage, particularly once you get up to like level 9 max rank in that queue from Darius to get loads of healing, lower cooldown, blah, blah, blah. And at that point, you're not one-shotting the Darius. He gets to turn it around. You are losing those topside fights. You win a couple of the early level ones, and they did very well at doing that. But that next step of recognition that you're not getting anything more out of topside hasn't really been hit. I feel like it should have gone towards bot lane with those 2-star carries.
Yeah, and honestly, considering, you know, historically, Merbs has been near enough 35% of the team's kill shares, which is a big number, even if you are the AD carry, and you're playing with an Ornn and a Lucian here. It feels a little bit counter to how Vanir have won their games and their draft as well.
You know we say kill share. Imagine if that was kill shares, and it's like actually you get enough kills to actually just own the team.
It's the Summer's Rift stock market.
Yeah, sorry, Merbs actually owns Vanir now. Sorry guys,
he's got the controlling stake. But maybe a controlling stake could be found in topside as well, investing in gold or at least plates is Kerberos right now with this wave being shoved in. Dragon secured by Vanir in the bot side. That is their second, and edging towards a win condition there, but a handshake pulls Kraox into an Ultra Shock glaze, and I don't think he was particularly happy about that business deal either. And Linkcast is where else but top?
It was going to be here. I don't know if a cross map can happen from Vanir though. Den Voxney sends so strong. Dreampool looking like
big knock up, teleport as well. They're going to try. Massive call of the Forge God knocks up 2. The Brother Brogs are there, and it's a package to boot. Dead Kerberos. He's gone. They execute the Executioner, and the Noxian Rampage to the top side ends swiftly.
On Dreampool once again in the dive, gets a little more for his money than what Dusty were really prepared for. Dusty couldn't get a timely dive. They couldn't get a CC chain. Teleport comes through, and you know we're saying, you know what, top lane kind of gets difficult until Corki becomes relevant. First package used to stave off that attempt, and it's in fine timing for them, because Vanir did feel like their cross-map potential wasn't really going to be enough to equalize it on the other side of the map, but they managed to find it through topside anyway.
Do indeed, and it is a nice turnaround. It prevents what would have been a very ugly dive. Either way, still Dusty with a gold lead early on. Of course, a pretty scary Darius despite the death there as well. 2-1-1 with that Trinity Force completed. Kerberos, the last time he picked the champion earlier on in the split, ended with a 12-0 KDA. Had a very phenomenal, a very strong game on that. Very phenomenal feels a little odd to say. I think you just say phenomenal normally, but there you go. The English teacher and me coming out to play briefly. And he's in a position to carry.
The axe very good.
Yes, yes, that's exactly how I should have said it.
Curb Q go woo. I'm trying to
Q go stomp to, you know, get curb stomp in there. That would have been a little bit, you know, nicer.
The thing is that, like, I feel like so many people have said that over the years at this point that you need to be very careful.
It's so good.
It is very good, and he has been swinging that axe with a hell of a lot of force behind it so far. And it's not been off to the best start in terms of. What have you got?
Ludenzari.
He's done it! Yes! Oh, you know, I was so focused on other lanes. This is what happens when I'm not paying attention.
We've got to pay attention to this fight at the top side, though. There's a flash for a stun, puts Den Voxney into a bailout, and he will not be able to survive. Tries his best, but now Kraox going for a stun onto Stend, but will not be able to secure the kill quite yet. There is still a Stormbringer, though, so this tower can be shut off pretty swiftly. They're just going to go and try and take it down regardless.
Okay, so Backlund with that damage up on the top side. 3v3, tower in tow.
Flash audacious charges, remember, is gone. In goes Backlund, though, trying to bail himself out. Survives! That is a business deal you'll take.
Oh gosh, and now Vanir overstay in the top side. It has been all top side this game. We called it out from the beginning, said, yeah, you got to do something early with this Xin Zhao. Play around this top side, and one good fight later. after we say everything about Backlund getting involved in the game, and they take that topside turret, they get a couple of stacks on a Dark Seal, Snowball starting to engage. It was our Australian lanes very briefly as those Duos lanes went towards topside, and what a confrontation this was. Zaremba just trying to catch out then Voxnay, and does just about manage it after a couple of traded flashes, but it is really when everyone else comes to party after this point. It's an overstay into an overstay. Dusty come out better for it.
Linkhouse with a flash and a wind becomes lightning has a very long engage range, it turns out, and there wasn't enough tankiness, and suddenly that Ari goes from 1-2 and 1, failed dive kind of towards the top side early on, and is very much in this game now with those stacks beginning to come through on the Dark Seal and the gold. You can see where it's kind of differentiated here between the two teams.
Now, the thing is, particularly against a champion like Corki, Ari using an Everfrost doesn't actually get the best value out of it, particularly when Corki gets package. You're likely just doing a chunk of burst and then Corki's flying away. So
have you mind controlled Backlund? Like, he's just bought the book seconds
So,
as well.
you know, we were talking about, like, when you get nominated for an Emmy, you get the chance to, like, multitask and, like, put a copy of yourself out there. I'm actually playing on this keeper. No, absolutely not. But Backlund looking to snowball, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Your job now as Backlund, what this build signifies is I want to burst the Corki. I want to burst someone on the bot side of the map and stop them from having a really cushy time in the team fight. I actually think, ironically, how Tempt plays is kind of what you want to see from Backlund with this build. Is what this build wants to do. You don't necessarily want to be playing around hitting the Volley Bear and the Ornn. They're a little bit too tanky. You're looking for those backline targets. Let's see how Backlund can reach those primary targets.
Absolutely. Looking towards a bit more wave clear right now for Ericsson as well, who's doing his very best with that Ravenous Hydra second. Oh, sorry, the Tiamat second. Not quite completing all the way up to the Ravenous quite yet.
I am unironically quite happy by this.
You're actually looking very smug right now. I'm just saying, I've never seen you and Backlund in the same room, so who knows? Maybe this really is you on a keyboard just in front of here.
Oh, gosh. Well, either way, again, it just speaks to the playstyle, right? Particularly because you are the sole AP on your team. The magic penetration you get from Ludens, building up those extra legendary items does go a long way. Speaking of that, see what's going to happen with the next big power play. 3 members in the mid lane from Dusty looking to force the issue. One pick can mean so much damage coming onto that prime target.
Chunk onto the Ari, but they secure the tower. They get that Drake for themselves while preventing a soul point for Vanir. Yes, it's traded in the top side for a turret, but Dusty take that as a pretty well-orchestrated series of plays that went their way.
So all this takes now is one good fight from Dusty, and the game gets very, very difficult. Already the side lane's getting more difficult for that Ornn, but if you get Snowball Gold into your Darius, Magi stacks onto your Ari, all it takes is one good fight. The map starts to fall apart. On the other side, though, Vanir, you are looking to just try and stall out the game. Deny that one fight. Get the 3 items in your Corki and start dealing with the range advantage you have. You have an Ornn, you have frontline, you can disengage with multiple waves, a Call of the Forge God, and that Nami Tidal Wave. So that's what we're really looking at now. As we slow down, let's just try and say, how is this game going to go? You want to just stall out the game from Vanir, get to your items, whereas Dusty, you're looking to find that one fight to blow open the game.
As it stands, still a little while before this game is well and truly over, but Dusty, it does feel like in a very good position right now with the way the map is set up. They prevented the soul point stack as well. You can try to wait a little bit for this core to hit a second item, and that's a little delayed with that Tiamat pickup.
And it does mean that, again, you're not playing around your item spikes right now. Ari just picked up the Sork shoes. It is really just hit that first target. If you are going to have one moment to hit that Corki who hasn't built a Hex Drinker, you want to make sure your damage is really, really efficient. Of course, the same applies to Lucian if you get on top of them too. You're looking to dive in, get that one combo. Is that going to be relevant in this fight? Vanir managed to set up some defensive lines, and at least they managed to defend this this tower. Dusty not feeling a fight just now.
I suspect as we kind of slowly soar over the red side jungle of Dusty here, you can see the wards down. They've set themselves up a pretty strong CCTV network. They know exactly what's going on in Vanir's camp.
Just said soar. I'm like, do you want to play a game? Feeling a little bit more like one of those movies coming out of there. And again, it does feel like, again, Dusty are looking, they're angling. They're not over-forcing it. I think that's good. I think if they do end up forcing too hard, it gets very dangerous for them. When someone like Xin Zhao falls behind the curve, we know exactly what happens to that. It was a very dangerous prospect, actually, in this game. After those top lane plays didn't go the way that they potentially wanted them to. Now, Vanir, in response to this, they are, again, making sure they can't get picked off across the map. Dragon's not up yet, but they're looking for the fight.
They're going to try and make this one happen. In they go, flash out, but Kerberos with a double! Apprehend! Deletes the Lucian! There ain't no second chance for you! He's straight dead! And that'll be another murder on the block for Kerberos.
And that is just as the Baron is spawning. They're making a beeline. They don't have as many cooldowns now, but without the Lucian Nami, what realistically can Vanir do?
Straight over to the Baron they go, and Ericsson, yes, you've got a second item, but I don't know whether the damage is really in. Vanir need to make this one hurt. There's the charm onto Dreampool, who might be an Orm, but still gets chunked very heavily.
Oh, that's an ult.
They do get the hostile takeover, gets onto Corki, but doesn't really shoot too many other people. Dreampool backing away is ignited, but will survive. They pull away from the Baron, but Dusty don't feel confident enough to continue assaulting the big purple
I think
worm.
if they carry on a little too far beyond that, Merbs and Zaremba come back to play, and that gets very dangerous after that point. The cleanup potential evolution gets very difficult. So this is actually just the singular TP coming from Ori on the side. Knows that they're in a bit of an awkward situation, and sadly, actually, for the side of Dusty, they kill off the Lucian a little too early to get any kill participation on Ari, and they don't get the other kill onto it, so you're still sadly quite a few Magi stacks. When you get to 10, that's when it becomes gold efficient, and you get move speed bonus too. You get the ability to close down the gap very, very quickly. And of course, with a Luden's proc on top, they actually become very quick even without your ultimate being involved, but still, it's a good fight for the team as a whole. And Dusty starting to take control of the bot side jungle after this point too, returning to that scene of the crime.
Of course, for Vanir, if they can get Ericsson, the man who's been offered so much support from his family. What a wonderful video that was in the pre-show.
Actually, yeah, no, taking some time to speak about that.
Yeah.
That is actually something really, really cool. Not always the easiest path into a career, going into gaming, going into esports. Seeing that familial support, it really does mean an awful lot. Shout out to Ericsson, the family. That is actually a very special moment. We just want to take that extra time to put that on the table.
Absolutely. And, you know, in this game as well, he's on the Corki, he's on the Scalet, he's got an Ornn, he'll be ornamenting his Mythic when he can build that, which is probably looking like a third option, or third item build. There we go, there's probably a better way of phrasing that, but still.
Well, let's see whether he can transform from being a scaler into a vector. See, that's actually a scaler with direction. Yeah, do your science homework for that one, I suppose. But he has the package. It's 20 seconds until that dragon and Vanir are actually the ones with the angle on this. There is vision behind them, though. Let's see what can happen. Kerberos, no flash, no ghost, lacking that target access. Dusty needs to find their target.
Oh, all right, Ericsson. The moment we start shouting him out, lands a big one that chunks them Voxney to half alongside Stend.
Backlund is trying to find someone out of position, but again, Vanir just very happy to hold this. Dusty felt like they had the vision control, should have had the angle, but they don't hold their territory well enough. Charm misses.
Soul point now secured, but Dusty take the opportunity to shove in waves in mid and bot. Linkas runs into Dreampool, is forced to burn the Crescent God, but gets onto Ericsson, who burns the package to escape. Now what can back under the rest do? Big charm down, but not quite enough damage, and now he's in danger. The stacks are in danger. He's about to fall, you feel. Just about escapes, though. They'll take Stend, but not the Ari. But what can Denvoxney and Kerberos now in a 1 versus 4 do to try and extricate themselves from the situation?
Feels like a real big fumble from Dusty. They had the vision on bot side, they knew they were playing around package, but they tried to half commit to a fight without really finding the right targets. Dusty letting that soul point fall away to Vanir, and Vanir held their discipline, didn't go walking into too much fog of war, managed to get themselves that extra dragon, and now finding themselves again into a point where they were aiming for, trying to elongate the game a little bit. Actually, if it comes up to that next dragon, they shouldn't feel pressured to go for a big fight. They can just wait for another item or two, and this is kind of what we're talking about, right? Like, they have the vision control, but they let Vanir get towards that dragon, and they didn't find themselves a particularly great place to engage. Backlund kind of aimlessly ulting into that fight, trying to find someone, bit of a hope and a dream, and is very, very lucky that knockup didn't land. That would have been death, and would have been stacks going with it. The snowball, the anti-snowball at that point, losing gold value for that death beyond just the gold you give over.
Yeah, would have been a little bit risky. That's what you get for Spirit rushing across the tail end of a package. Little bit more damage, I suspect, than Backlund was expecting. Either way,
the ult half cancelled by the pop-up of the Ornn Q as well.
Also that. Yeah, you do not want that one.
Unfortunate timing.
Is it Volcanic Pillar, I believe it's called?
Volcanic Rupture.
Volcanic Rupture, that's what it is.
See, I'd know that because I'm very good at ability names, apparently, according
Indeed.
to various other pieces of content.
I can never quite remember, because of course I'm so used to thinking Rupture as in Cho'Gath Key.
Yes. Yeah, that was a bit of a rough one, but either way. becoming more and more relevant in that fight, and Ornn going to become slowly more and more relevant. It's well behind in CS, still able to impact these fights. That Call of the Forge God in that last one was very pivotal for Vanir. Question is, what can Dusty do to accelerate the game so that kind of doesn't happen again? It feels like they're giving Vanir kind of easy entries into these fights, not really leveraging side lane pressure too much, nor are they finding clean picks or engages onto the targets they really want.
That said, Kerberos is a bit of a menace right now. I don't think there's anybody who really wants to be in the 1v1 versus him. And honestly, a 1v2 would be a little bit risky as well, considering it is a Darius who does finally secure that bot lane tier 2. That now goes down. We'll see a reset coming out of the Darius. Ahri at 3 items. There's the Force of Nature in for Kerb. And they still do have the gold lead to Dusty. It's a fairly significant one at that as well.
So I actually think that, so what happens when you stack up so much flat magic penetration? Of course, Shadow Flame gives you that, so you end up getting a little bit less efficient with it. If you had enough gold for a death cap, you would have loved it over that point, but I feel like this is just the instant bump, looking for a big fight, looking for the snowball again.
There's going to be a lot of damage. They throw out the Crescent Guard, but Denvoxy on the other side taking a lot of damage. The exhaust on demand puts him so low! Get him! They get the stacks and 10 are in. The Medjai Soul Stealer will get another few, up to 14, and Backland beginning to reset. The double is in. You see what they get to run with? Reset after reset, and Nymera feels so damn vindicated.
Everfrost could never! I have waited so long for a person to pick up the snowball build, look at those squishy carries and say, come at me, try and deal with this. Dusty, find the snowball fight. It's a handful of kills into a Baron, and this is the fight they were looking for to accelerate the game.
I will show you fear in a handful of Dusty players. We'll quote the Wasteland one more time, and we'll go towards a Baron power play for Dusty. This time, the picks come true.
And it couldn't have come at a better time, because Vanir are still sat on that Mountain Soul point, a minute to it. And it is really off the back of Linkus and Backland finding their way back in. Just look at what happens when you get onto these targets. Backland hasn't procced Electrocute yet. That is ultimate W and an auto. Procs that Electrocute afterwards, a Luden's proc on top of it. And just look how much damage you get from this no counterplay build. When you get ahead of the game, those targets really can't run away from you. And of course, someone like a Ghost running Darius, similarly having strong target access when the fight gets broken up. Dusty now back into that driver's seat. Is it enough? They need to, of course, see this game out. And they can't let slip a dragon through a flip. See what they can do. Now the gold and the snowball is well and truly rolling.
And that is always the risk, of course. Vanir have played some of these fights and turnarounds valiantly indeed. And they are running an Ahri, not Ahri, a Corki.
Yeah, we can talk about that again.
They're running into an Ahri. We mentioned that enough at this point. You've got a Wormfall and Sacrifice in on this Lucian. If they can get to 3 items, if they can get the soul, things get a little bit harder for Dusty to play this one out.
You need to really be looking for an initial pick, separating someone off from Dusty now, hopefully just hoping they dive, over-engage, and they find themselves going into a Call of the Forge God, into a Tidal Wave, something like that. Because the problem when you have Wormfall and Sacrifice, when you don't have a Hex Drinker on your Corki, is that if you end up kind of turning around for your own turnaround damage, you get completely burst out. We've seen the amount of damage that Backland has. That, of course, that applies to Den Voxner and Linkus and Kerberos too. Lots of big turnaround damage in short order. You need to be very careful about how you're positioning as these squishy carries in a gold deficit.
Yes, indeed. Still no Ludens in for Ericsson, who's got to be close to it at this point. You have to feel... You've made your point at this point. He's smug enough. He's got it right this time around. It's a very strong Ahri at the 4-2-4. Shoving in on this top side. Kerberos towards the bottom of 1-3-1. Very much enabled, or now moving towards a 3-1-1 as members of Dusty begin to rotate towards this remaining outer turret.
So, 40 seconds left on that Baron power play. No objective up for Dusty to reset for or to have torn away from them if they didn't quite manage that. They're using the last couple of waves to find something. No flash on Backland to force a play, but just any one piece of CC landing, and that's someone dying from Vanir at the end of it.
1/2 for Q. Chunks Krayox out at significantly more than he was hoping for. That Orb of Deception is deceptively strong at this point. Cullen comes through to clean out the wave, and worth pointing out, Dusty did secure the most recent Drake as well, so Vanir can't even try to play for that right now. Inhibitor turret in mid lane broken. Inhibitor lane in top side about to fall as well. Gonna see whether they can hold on now that the Baron buff has dropped.
Now, there's enough wave clear for now that Vanir are feeling okay about this last wave. They've had the base broken into but not shattered. So they're not going to have super minions crushing in across their waves right now. But it's still a lot of gold to Dusty. They get to back, see what they can complete with their items after this point. Even Stend picking up a second item now. That redemption, yeah, continue the fight because they are looking to, again, find these broken fights where Zeri, Ari, Darius can really start running you through. And the damage is seriously there now for Dusty to force Vanir to scatter lest they get caught up in huge burst combos.
Honestly, that was an economy Baron that broke the bank of Vanir. They've gone from about 5,000 gold ahead to solidly about 10,000 now, just shy of.
Gold to death cap. Now this is huge as well. Those one-shots are getting to the point where it is almost 100 to 0. You have to flash away. There it is to double away. It's there at this point. You know, the corrupting pot is basically there for extra movement speed at this point because you pop it and you have Magi's, you have Luden's procs, you're running at them, and it gets to the point
speed. Yeah.
What that means is, so when you play with an Everfrost, you use the Everfrost to force a defensive ability, right? When this one, you use your raw damage to say, you must flash, you must dodge, otherwise you can't fight anymore. And that's the difference between the mentality of them. Of course, it requires that Ludens to be ahead. It requires that burst combo to be heavy, heavy burst. Just as Muz was potentially looking to burst out Den Voxnate, but it's not going to happen. But Dusty, they have the damage, they have the tools to make it happen. Vanir,
gonna go for a go. Ericsson's just got himself an upgraded Ludens as well to try and make something happen, but the engage just isn't quite there. They saw a potential opening. They tried to make it happen the moment Ericsson was in with the upgrade. But even an Eye of Luden won't quite be able to draw a bead this time around.
So Kerberos wasn't there at the play. I think that was why Vanir pressed that go button. We're potentially looking to see if he hadn't been on that recall. And now Kerberos sat there on so many items too. Of course, Darius doesn't really need a lot of help from damage in his items. It's about target access. It's about being able to stick in that fight because the amount of continual damage he gets, particularly onto those tanks, through that bleed, through everything else, is so ridiculous. And we've spoken a lot from Dusty's side in terms of what they're looking for. Actually, you know, they're not able to close this game that cleanly because Vanir have disengage options. They have a lot of damage too as well. You know, they have those items on Corki as you're calling out, and they have a stopwatch too now. Ericsson may be able to outplay the first bit of burst damage, but again, it depends on what cost that comes at. Are you stuck in a bad position if you have to use that stopwatch? Honestly, I think you're not really able to survive a lot of these combos unless you have the unstoppable nature of that package. It feels like that would have to be the saving grace for this, but currently don't have it for this spawning Baron. 8 seconds, 7 ticking down, and now Vanir have to walk into the fog, walk into a potential engage. You have to play it oh so carefully.
Do Vanir care, though? It's 30 seconds to what would be sold for them, and they decide this is the risk.
This is someone dead if Backland lands a charm. Look how scared Vanir have to be. They don't have the vision. See them tentatively look towards it.
Dragon time. They're gonna flip at the soul. They decide soul is their chance. They're teleporting in for this as well.
Better territory for them. They get the access to it, and now they have the package. Vanir, this is your last chance saloon. What can you do?
Ericsson lands a big one. That's Backland down to about 2/3, and they're gonna retreat straight back over to this mountain soul. And I don't think Dusty, I was going to call them Den Voxnate, they're a bit more than just the one player, are going to try and shove in, and this actually might be a risk. How quickly can they retreat, having taken the soul? They have a Sorcerer's
Elixir, they have several items onto Den Voxnate as well. That's a quick inhibit to take, but they don't have positioning on their waves to finish anything off. Look what Dusty can do with wards over walls. Look for those individual picks. They've not found solid engages, but all it takes is one slip up. Vanir didn't fall into it around that Baron. It still could happen after this point. So, that's a Mount Soul onto Vanir. I still don't think that actually saves them from the burst damage that comes in from Dusty. It is all about just not getting hit at this point. And it's much easier for Vanir to not get hit than Dusty because of that range advantage. But one side is a one-shot, one is just poke for now. Game's still on.
They're getting towards the point where the wave clear can start to manage even against a Baron. It feels like Corki with the 3 items, maybe, just maybe, can be what they need. Ericsson, a player that every time I see him, I'm reminded was on Verdant last split in Div 2, who, you know, descended towards Division 3, now up at Div 1. It's becoming an increasingly impressive mid laner, but maybe this is the moment they're going to try and get in onto Den Voxnate. But he's thrown down the lightning crash, surviving. The Berserk will start turning this one around, a hostile takeover. Do it they can! Oh my God!
There we go, the electrocute, pop the Q2 on both.
That's not an electrocution, that's a full thunderstorm. Just comes crashing down, deletes Lucian from the rift.
And oh my gosh, Backland, welcome to the Nightmare approved Aria players. I am so happy to see this player pop off in this regard. It takes him such a long time to find that pick. They crushed down so many inhibitors at this point, though, and Dusty looking to stamp out resistance in this game.
Blink and you miss it. He had a stopwatch. He didn't think he had it. We're going to need to use it. I think that was probably 0.5 seconds from 80% to dead.
It was pretty much on that. And again, it is just the 0 counterplay combo. One which might end up sealing this game. Dusty looking to move to 10 and 4, keeping pace with that top of the table, looking to see how far they can go in summer.
They're going to have Merbs respawn. It's still early enough that he's not down for that long. He's behind in a lot of levels as well, and that always, of course, extends the death timers the higher level you are. But they've only got one inhibitor turret remaining, and they've still got 25 seconds on this Baron to work with.
You have flashes available from everyone besides Zeri on Dusty. What can they find to land at this point? Because that's now going to be, of course, okay, see what they're doing
Lands the
here.
apprehend, but can they prevent the call of the Forge God? Out comes the hostile takeover onto 4! And it's going to be an absolute disaster for Vanir, who are going to be deleted. The stopwatch double from Ericsson and Merbs. Buy them a little bit of time, but just not enough. Another double to Backland, who proves Nightmare right once more.
Library's open, come on in, get stacking, folks. Dusty, it's a whole team performance, top side of the map. Didn't go the way they wanted to in the early levels, but they got it rolling surely but slowly. Vanir, sadly not able to capitalize on their own advantages in this game, falling to 5 and 9, keeping themselves in a very dangerous position when it comes to those